We're in the heart of Hull once more, at the Central Library. Welcome to the Culture Cafe. In this episode, stories from Rupert Creed, devised theatre from Band. But first, music from Lewand.
I'm not lost, I'm just searching and hoping for mankind. And I'm not scared of the wind, but when lightning strikes, I'll be the first to hide out. And who knows? Who says you'll compensate the one that you've been waiting for, dear? And who breathes out corrupted lungs, but still the one to cry out? Don't you fear me, darling. Don't you? Don't you fear me, darling. Don't you fear me. Don't you? And I'll try so hard, and I'll take them in. I'll push the tracks, I'll fight it off. But your blood, it's so thirsty, makes me wild like dogs. And there's you within this soul, so I'm done. I'm so done with this home. I'm so done with this home. I'm so done with this home. Don't you fear me, darling. Don't you? Don't you fear me, darling. Don't you fear me. Don't you?
That was Lewand. We'll have more music from him later in the show. I'd like to tell you a story. Long before books or even writing, a story was an event. It was something that people told. It existed on the lips and in the memory. Here's someone who is helping to bring back the art of storytelling to Hull. Rupert Creed.
It was the spring of 2007, and a young Hull man called Alan decided he was going to give up drinking for 3 months. And he succeeded. He never went to the pub, he never touched a drop of drink, and he felt he'd proved to himself that he could do it. And that night some friends rang him up and said, "Alan, why don't you come out to the pub? We haven't seen you for ages." And he thought, why not? Why not indeed? I've proved to myself that I can give up drink, I can go out and have a celebratory drink tonight. And that night was June 2007. And of course, not having drunk for 3 months, he got pretty drunk on just 2 or 3 pints. And he staggered back home to his flat on Pearson Park. And he never even made it to bed. He was so drunk, he just crashed on the sofa. And in the middle of the night, he woke up and he saw something strange, a strange light shimmering on the ceiling. And he thought, oh, I definitely had too much to drink. I'm hallucinating. And he went promptly back to sleep. And he slept a very good sleep. And many hours later, in the late morning, he woke up with a stinking hangover. And he rolled off his sofa and promptly found himself in 3 feet of deep water. And he looked around his room and he couldn't believe his eyes. The bookcases were collapsed. The books were floating around like debris in the water around him. And his hi-fi and his stereo were half submerged in the water. Oh my God, he thought. I'm never ever going to drink again. I'm still dreaming here. And he staggered to his feet, went out to his front door and stepped out and looked at the view on Pearson Park. And it was no longer a park. It was a huge lake. And there in the corner, between the trees, he couldn't believe his eyes. He could see a canoeist paddling across the water. And he walked down into the park. And the water came up to his knees. And between his legs, he could see a koi carp swimming through his legs. And he realised that he wasn't dreaming. It wasn't the drink. This was really happening. It was the Hull floods of June 2007. And from that day onwards, he never ever gave up drinking again.
We'll be having more from Rupert a little later, another story as well. Actors are often thought of as functional workers, doing little more than interpreting the words of the writer. But in the devised theatre, an actor creates their own piece. The group Band, B-A-N-D, were formed specifically to create their piece, It's a Cruel World. Here they are to perform a single section from the full work, Band.
Of a naughty schoolgirl who never did as she was told. Now, let's see how her life unfolds. The first tale I bring you is of one young girl. It's grim enough to make your stomach curl. I call this tale Pig Girl. Down a pretty little street, in a pretty little house,
lived a not-so
pretty little girl.
Violet wanted to be prized and adored.
Mwah. For this she loved nothing more. She spent her days staring at herself.
She thought of herself as a beauty queen.
My reflection is utter perfection. Really?
Are we supposed to be a dressing table?
Yes. Shh. Watch her.
Here it goes.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Violet. Ooh.
Her parents would offer her gifts and attention. What would you like, my darling?
What would you like, my sweetheart? What do I want? That is a good question. There are many things that I could mention. Daddy, I want. She wants. She wants. She wants. Ooh, a teddy bear. Build a
Bear.
Build a
Bear.
Build a
Bear.
Ta-da! Ooh.
She received these gifts with no delay.
Then Violet would say, I don't like it. Oh, she doesn't like it.
Does she like it?
She doesn't like it. Daddy?
No.
I want another pony.
No.
Violet? Meet trifle. All right then. Up we go. Nay. 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 Daddy.
Yes, dear.
Daddy.
Yes, dear.
Daddy.
Yes, dear.
That horse is just too gloopy.
Oh.
Nothing was good enough for Daddy's little girl.
What rhymes with girl?
Give us a whirl. Ta-da!
She never cared about the misfortune of others.
She only cared to catch her lovers. La la, lovely day for fishing. Happy fish guys, lady ought to be clever in your favour. I've pulled.
What a hooker.
Do I do? Bushy eyebrows. Plenty more fish in the sea.
She cared not about teachers and work in class.
She would only speak words good enough to gain their attention. Boggle off.
She never memorised any of the working books.
She would only memorise her list.
List?
Chip, chip, chip. Those who love me. Henry.
If I could rearrange the alphabet, I'd put you and I together.
Joe.
Is your dad a robber? Because he stole the stars and put them in your eyes.
Philip.
If you were a chicken, you'd be impeccable.
Harry. Potter. Wingardium Leviosa.
It's not Leviosa, it's Leviosa.
Violet's list could go on and on, but she never thought she was doing any wrong.
These fools would offer me attention and gifts.
Chocolate.
Roses,
Gold.
diamonds.
Marry me.
Take my hand.
I accepted these gifts. Need I mention?
For breaking our hearts was her only intention.
I was a budding sadist.
Correct. She would gorge out our hearts.
Victim 1.
Victim 2. Cut open, snip open arteries, remove aortic pump.
She kept them in a jar edged with lace.
A tribute to my beautiful face.
But
There was one boy which caught her eye. Who is that boy? I need not make him cry. He went by the name of
Victor Bailey,
Hey, miss.
she likes him.
He's doting.
She loves him.
boobs, hips, bum. Perfect. I don't know how to say this, but I think I love you.
To say I love you would be a lie, for I like pretty and kind girls who answer questions in class.
Pick me, I know the answer. This response Violet could not understand.
For she thought she was both pretty and kind.
But poor Violet was evidently blind. This does not happen to me. This surely cannot be.
She felt her heart for the first time as it began to break.
This response she could not bear.
Her face began to disfigure with despair.
I am undone.
Boo-hoo.
Her vain and greedy ways contorted her face. For Violet's face her parents could not bear. They whisked her off to a freak show fair. Ew! She's uglier than an elephant.
Is it?
Smile. Now for the world to see.
Violet,
this is all you will ever be. This is the end of the tale you are told of one young girl and the vanity she did behold. broken-hearted, stripped of her looks, a cause of fright, her looks turned all hearts cold.
Now this is the end of the tale you are told.
Well done. Thank you very much. Okay, so first of all, why are you called Band?
It stands for the
Initials
of our group.
Ben, Amelia, Natasha and Daniel.
Daniel isn't here.
Right. Okay, cool. And how did you go about devising this piece?
It was very spontaneous to begin with. We sort of struggled because our stimulus was national curriculum, and we wanted to go with something that wasn't quite obvious. And so I saw a performance in the National Student Drama Festival and sort of took the idea of doing like grisly tales and
Yeah, so
gory
we
tales.
incorporated the idea of telling 3 morals that students could take from it. So we have like vanity, laziness, and then like anger.
Yeah, and each scene kind of came as like a moment of madness. Like we couldn't just come together and think of something. Everything came randomly.
Yeah, like
and
in
we
the
sort of
middle of
stuck
the night.
together. Yeah, we like had like dreams about it and then just wrote it down. And
We took
It
inspiration
turned,
from
yeah.
Edward Gorey, didn't we?
Yeah.
Real Peter.
Yeah. Was there any more people that are influenced by your work or that you're influenced by that you used?
TV grisly tales for gruesome kids. That was
Yeah.
one
Main
major
one.
thing.
We looked at like a lot of Tim Burton work and like his face paints and stuff
Yeah.
like that
So
as
Charlie
well.
and the Chocolate Factory. That kind
Yeah.
of style.
Okay. Now, I've seen you use a lot of physical theatre. Why have you chosen that?
Well, just because it's like for our exam piece, it's really a great way to like gain most marks and like really visualise something in a way that the audience would normally expect to see it.
Yeah.
We tried to do it as non-naturalistically as possible, didn't we?
Yeah.
Okay. And I read that you're going on tour soon. Where is this?
Well, hopefully just around a few secondary schools just to gain like a better opinion about like whether they understood the morals of the tales and stuff really.
Okay, brilliant. Well done and thank you for coming. Thank you.
Lewand, like all singer-songwriters, can claim to inherit the tradition of the troubadour, a musical storyteller. As you may have guessed, this show seems to be all about stories. Well, these days the troubadour tells a far more personal tale. Here's Lewand.
And back to my apartment, out through the city blocks. You don't know I'm leaving, so I guess you're out of luck. But now I'm calling happiness, and I'm asking for change. The timing's at its best, so we should go our separate ways. Guess what? Who knows what life brings? The tides are taking back the offshore winds, and all I've done for you will be lost. And all we have are these moments turned memories, I hope. Knowing all we have is lost again, because you set the bar so high that I cannot see. Your love, it's suffocating me, and I cannot breathe. This time, it's taken its toll on me. And let these words send their message to your past. And I hope you show them with your arms held open wide, my dear. Oh, and just jump in the water now, jump in the water now. But be warned that you must stay close to the docks, as they will guide you and will lend you an eye when it's stubbornness that's all but left you blind. And I'll feel for you, just like this lighthouse that forms around us. We'll both grow, and things are bound to change. We're like this lighthouse with storms around us. 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 No. Oh, 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 oh. And call me back, I'm on the almanac, but they won't know when I'm near again. My life's on track, oh, at God's hope and at God's speed. My life's on track again. My life's on track again.
Now, what are sort of your influences you draw from music? Because you've got quite a unique style, very sort of indie and new at the moment, sort of new sort of breed of music. Where do you take your influences from?
Oh, I like to think I've a kind of eclectic taste in music, but I lean towards the whole Bon Iver.
Yeah.
Ben Howard's a huge influence of mine. Matt Corby as well, just them kind of acoustic soul, like true musicians I kind of think of them as, like people that play instruments and make their own music. It's not all synth and, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, and your lyrics are quite, you have a lot of meaning behind them. Where do you sort of take your meaning for your lyrics behind?
Just everyday things. Honestly, like I don't like set out to write a song. I don't sit down and say, all right, I'm going to write this. It's just, as cheesy as it sounds, it's just things that happen, and then I'll record something, or like I'll record a riff or an idea, but then like lyrics will just come. It just takes time. It just happens.
That's all right. What are you planning to do on recording soon in Hull and stuff like that?
I'm recording. Well, I say recording. I'm beginning to record an EP at the moment. Still, honestly, no like release date set yet, but I'm just seeing how it goes. I don't want to rush anything. Like if it takes a few years, if it takes a few months, just see what happens. I just want it to be decent, of good quality. So that's all that really matters.
You're on the gig scene in Hull then? Do you do a lot of gigs?
Gigging everywhere. Like yeah, I'm always playing about Hull.
And where can other people find you that can't get to your gigs? You have a website, Facebook page?
You can follow me on Twitter. I'm more active on Twitter than on Facebook, and at Lewand_LEWAND. And also on Facebook, facebook.com/LewandMusic. But I am more active on Twitter, to be fair, yeah.
Aren't we all? Anyway, thank you very much. We're going to hear another song later on. Yeah. So, thank you very much.
So we'll be hearing from Lewand, as Sam said, a little bit later on, as he gives us another story by music. Now, you've seen musical stories and acted out theatrical stories as well. And we've heard one spoken one from a man who knows all about storytelling. He collects them, he directs plays and writes plays about them. And he's here, Rupert Creed, the storyteller who captures people's stories all over Hull, including the one you told us about the floods. I believe you have another about the floods as well, which you'll be reading to us shortly. One that's a little less light-hearted, because it was quite a dramatic event.
Well, it was. I suppose we don't know big events are happening until they're happening, and I just found it was probably the only vaguely funny, humorous story out of. We recorded round about 50, 60 different people's stories, sometimes in audio, sometimes video, sometimes we just, I'd literally transcribe, I'd type in as they told me the story. And I think, in some ways I always think, oh, blimey, I'm not a good enough artist to make up stories myself. But it's mainly because I think, the stories that happen around you are so amazing, and the lives and incidents that people experience are so amazing that, why make it up? There's a richness in any place you go. The sort of dig where you stand idea. Find the stories of people around you. The events that happen to a community around you are, for me, far more interesting than fictionalising something.
Now, you do make some stories up because you're a playwright, or do you do you dramatise and edit and facilitate those stories coming out in your plays? What is the relationship between that?
With playwriting, there's a sort of range. I mean, I have written complete, made-up stories, particularly children's stories, which I think are great. I love making up children's stories. But I also wrote a whole series of what we call sort of oral history documentary plays. And these were based around working lives. So we did plays about Hull's fishing community, fishermen and their families, Scunthorpe steelworkers, nurses in Humberside and the police in Humberside, social workers. And the great thing about that was, whereas with an industry that's died, you can only get the oral tradition, you can only record stories from people from their memories and their experiences. But with current professions like policing, we'd go out with the coppers for 6 months and experience what it's like to be a police officer on the beat. So what you got is the play gets under the skin of what it's like to wear that uniform. And produced an amazing range of stories. And then in 2009, Hull Truck asked me to write a play about the floods. The floods happened in, June 2007, and it just so happened that very soon after, the Red Cross approached us to do a project, quite independent of Hull Truck, which was about gathering the stories, because there was a fundamental belief that actually, just simply by telling the stories, it is a sense of relief. Nobody would dispute that actually, if you've been flooded, what you want is your house sorted and the insurance sort of paying out to sort that out. But equally, the emotional impact of the floods was quite phenomenal for a lot of people. And we found a lot of people who had gone through quite difficult times, whether it was the stress of having your home invaded by floodwater, whether it was the sort of mental stress of the strains and stresses it put on people's relationships. And then I came to a story that really, really surprised me, and it was a national news story at the time. It was the story of a young man called Michael Barnett, he'd got himself trapped in a culvert on Astral Close in Hessel, in Hull. And it was a tragic story, and I can remember that night hearing it on Radio Humberside and actually thinking, oh my God, somebody has actually died in these floods. And then a few months later, through a totally independent source, a sort of acquaintance of mine who was a police officer, I found out that he was the first person on the scene. So he dealt with this unprecedented situation of this lad stuck up to his neck in floodwater, trapped in a culvert with his leg. The force of water coming through this drain was trapping against this metal grill. And I asked the police officer, who was PC Richard Clark, I said, look, would you mind if I recorded your experience and your story? And it was just an appallingly difficult story, a very painful story, because not only had the lad died, but the police officer and all the other rescue services there had failed to get this lad out. And this police officer had made a promise. He'd said to this lad, he said, look, don't worry, we'll get you out. And at the end of that day, several hours later, the lad had drowned. Well, he died of hypothermia. And the poor father, had lost his son. And this police officer, along with quite a few of the rescue services, carried that guilt that they hadn't got him out. And they were subject to a lot of local criticism, that people thought, well, how on earth didn't you get the lad out that drain? So I felt it was very important to tell this story, firstly to put the record straight, also to show the experience of the father that lost his son. So you hear the father's story, and also you hear the policeman's story. And so those were incorporated into the play about Hull floods that I wrote.
Now, I know you're a playwright, you're a director, you're a broadcaster, your work's been on BBC Radio. Would you give us this story just spoken word?
Yeah, this is the condensed version of what was several hours recording with the police officer. And in the play, he has to give evidence at the inquest, which was Christmas 2007, so several months later. And he's got to go through that whole traumatic experience for himself, but equally he knows the father is there in the room. So he's got to give a sort of account of himself. So this is drawn direct from the original recording with the police officer. I held his hand and made a promise. We're going to get you out, Michael. Whatever it takes, no one's going to give up on you. And the divers go down to cut the grill. It's pitch black, you can't see a thing. And the force of water, it's smashing them round. It was like being in a washing machine full of bricks and mud. and they're being hit. They're being pummeled by tons of water. And they just couldn't do it. They could not cut the grill. And the doctor was there. We talked amputation. He said, no way. He couldn't do it. No one could. Not in that force of water. And even if he could, it would kill Michael. The loss of blood, the shock, it would certainly kill him. So the next plan is the winch. We'll winch the grill out with Michael still trapped. So we set it up. We get a safety line around Michael and another round the diver, because we don't want to lose them down the pipe. And they press the green button and the winch comes tight and the grill shifts and it breaks the seal. And it all happens in a split second. They're both sucked under. It just rips them underwater. And all hell breaks loose. I mean, I've got the diver on the rope, but he's gone. So I jump in, firemen jump in, and I pull the diver up. Where's Michael? And then two hands come out the water, out of this black bubbling water, and they're grabbing. They're trying to grab hold. And the diver gets Michael and starts trying to pull him up, but he can't physically do it. The water is sucking him down. And they get his head up. And I'm up to my waist, and I'm being hit by bricks. I can't see what I'm stood on. And I can feel myself sliding. And we're trying to get the valve, the oxygen valve, into Michael's mouth. And there is no way. He's ripping it out. He's trying to break free. And I was holding his hand. And it was the look in his eye. His eyes were blue. No retina. No black bit in the middle. Just blue. And I've pulled people out who've drowned. And he had that same look. But he was still holding my hand. And then I knew he'd gone. He's one of the bravest people I've met. To have gone through that hour after hour, trapped in freezing water and being sucked under and then coming back up and being that close to the pavement, that close to people who were there to help you, holding on to you. And I think that's why he was fighting at the end. He'd had enough. He couldn't take any more. Leave me be. Just let me go. Let the waters take me. And that's why it's not about the inquest or the fact that we got exonerated. People say, oh yeah, we understand what happened now. You did the best you could. You've got to move on. Get on with your life. But every day for me, it's the same memory. It's the same set of pictures, the same DVD playing over in your head. It's watching Michael die. It's being cold and wet and failing to keep a promise.
Thank you to Rupert Creed, a teller of stories that need to be told. Well, you've seen theatrical performances of stories, musical performances of stories, and stories in their rawest form, just spoken as they've always been. Now here on the Culture Cafe, it's time to finish with one more song from Lewand. If you'd like to find out more about what we're doing, it's culturezone.org.uk, and we'll see you next time. Lewand, play us out.
Horses, they travel light, but they'll come back in the afterlife for you, darling. Oh, and my kinship will meet you there, past the cockled roads and dust-filled lungs. And oh my God, she said, my soul's not tainted yet, so I won't run from her. Oh, and pain's the only gate that she'll get through. Oh, and if you go, darling, the fire will grow, darling. And it's the flame that drives you to the place where nobody can say, I think you should go, darling. Walk up the footpaths to the hills, how they shine so bright, dear. off before you find them. Turn to faded tracks of muddy stones and walls. And we'll head east. We thought, let's face, we didn't know where country was. But I remember not caring, oh, the innocent snow. Oh, and if you go, darling, the fire will grow, darling. And it's that flame that drives you to the place where nobody can say just where we was that day. Oh, and if you go, when all I've done is show you that when I'm wrong, 'cause summertime has come. And if you go, 'cause I can't feel your pain no more. And if you go, I'm done. And if you go, when all I've done is show you and I'm wrong, 'cause summertime has come. And if you go, my dear, 'cause I can't take your pain no more. If you go, I'm done.